Hello guys and welcome back to Dylan's Little Hobbies, and in today's video we are going to review none other than Black Widow. Oh boy, I have been waiting to see this movie for such a long time. Indeed, it was actually supposed to come out 3 days after my birthday. I was planning my whole birthday to go see this movie. And then the pandemic hit a couple months before, and then it got delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. I've been wanting to see this movie for quite a long time, and I'm very happy that I have finally have seen this movie. With that said, in today's video, I simply want to make this one thing perfectly clear. This movie is great, and indeed, the thing is, the way that they're reviewing this movie, like they came out with this whole thing about, this movie is going to make men cry. It's a chick flick. Turning off a lot of people from actually seeing the movie. That's what not only Disney has put out, but more importantly, that's what the critics of this movie has put out. And it's like, have you actually watched this film? Because I did, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And indeed, one of the saddest things about this movie to me is the fact that a lot of people were kind of turned off from watching this movie. Maybe it's because they're getting a little tired of Marvel. Maybe it's because they're getting a little tired of Disney and everything else that's kind of going on. It is kind of crazy. But the thing is, if you are a Marvel fan, scratch that. If you are a Black Widow fan, if you liked anything about the character of Black Widow from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, then I'm going to tell you what. Forget what the critics say. Watch this movie because you are going to enjoy it. And that's the major thing I want to say about this. I want to make that perfectly clear. Even when I heard that review about it's gonna make men cry and this is a chick flick, that I was going to see the movie no matter what, because I am actually such a huge, and I really am. I just love Black Widow. I am such a huge Black Widow fan in the MCU that I was going to see it no matter what. But even I must admit that kind of turned me off from possibly watching the film. And I understand why. If anyone's out there, probably didn't want to go watch this film because of those stupid reviews. But let me tell you, they're wrong. Go and see it if you are a Black Widow fan, please. With that said, let's get on to the actual review of this movie. So, what can I actually say about this movie? So I love Black Widow. I've loved her ever since I've seen her in Iron Man 2, and I really liked her in the first Avengers movie. The whole connection she had with Hawkeye, that was interesting. And I've always for a long time, wanted to see some character progression for Black Widow. I just feel like we never spend enough time on Black Widow. And indeed, I think one major thing that I have a problem with in this movie is the fact that this movie is made after Endgame. To me, this movie should have been made, it really should have been made before Endgame. In fact, it should have been made right after Civil War, because this movie takes place after what? Civil War. That's right, Captain America, Civil War. That's when this movie takes place in, which I found interesting. I actually thought that we were going to start out like with Iron Man 1, like it was going to be her origin story, which, yeah, it tells her origin, but it's not like a movie that goes way beyond. Like they called this a prequel, and granted it's before Endgame, but I wouldn't call it a prequel because it does technically take place after Civil War. So can you really call it a prequel when you watch the whole thing, the whole MCU in session? You can't really call this a prequel, can you? But with that said, it does tell the story of Black Widow, and I really did like it. Unfortunately, I cannot remember the names of any of the other characters, but I really liked her dad. The I remember there was that joke about calling him the Crimson Dynamo, but I believe he was called something else. Either way, I really liked him. I thought he was probably the best part of the movie to me. Like, I loved the humor that they had with him, trying to squeeze into that big old superhero suit. And he's apparently a super soldier from Russia. And that's another thing. Like, Natasha, we knew was Russian, so I really like that in this movie we get a lot of Russian accents with all of the characters. I think that really fits the tone of this movie. I really liked what they were doing with it. And then, of course, we have her mother, who was also like a super spy, and then her and her little sister. I actually didn't know whether or not, when I first watched it, whether or not she was the older sister or whether or not she was the younger sister, but I knew she was one of those two girls. Turns out she was the older sister. And yeah, so here they are. It starts out with them having a happy family when it turns out that they were spies for, well, Russia. They actually end up getting into some trouble, and they have to go on the move. Apparently there's some secret technology on how to control people's minds, apparently, that they were always going to use. And I'm going to call him the Crimson Dynamo. Her dad actually was one of the guys who helped get it from America. And they have this really cool chase scene in the beginning where they're flying on this airplane, and he's staying on the wing, shooing everybody up. I loved that whole scene. Afterwards, of course, the family is split up. The girls are thrown into what's known as the Red Room. They're thrown into the Widow program, and that's how Black Widow, unfortunately, grew up. Yep. Her dad was never her dad. Her mom was never her mom. Her sister was never her sister. But something that I really like about the whole film is they really want to stress the point of family and how important family is to Natasha Romanoff. And that's something that carries on into Endgame, I feel like. And Infinity War, but mostly Endgame. So I really liked that, and I like the fact that we have so much focus on Natasha in this movie. That's something we don't normally see in the other films. So it starts out with her on the run from Civil War when she gets a package from her sister. Don't know what it is, but then someone comes after it. And she eventually has to fight them. Really cool spy action scene. And she has a bunch of these vials, and she's got to figure out what they are. Eventually, she has to go track down her sister to a place called Budapest. I'm never going to pronounce that word correctly, but yes, they actually do explain what Budapest is and what the whole thing with Hawkeye. I was hoping to actually see that play out, which we kind of did, but we not really. Apparently, her big job was in the way she got in the shield in the first place. Was she had to take out this big villain, and the way she did was she used the big villain's daughter to do it. That's pretty sad. And yeah, so Black Widow, that's her origin story. That's how she met Hawkeye, and that's how she ended up with Budapest. And then, of course, we have her sister. Her sister, I like to call her sister the White Widow, even though I don't think that's the correct term. I like to call her that, especially because at the end of the scene, at the end of the movie, Black Widow is wearing black and she's wearing white, so White Widow fits. Um, I really, really liked her character probably the most out of this film. I really liked her dad too. Her dad was hilarious. Their mom, great character. Like, all four of them were great characters. Something I really liked about it is how all four played off each other. I thought that was fantastic. The way they just played off each other in the movie, like an actual arguing family. It was great, and all the jokes. And it's really funny because I hear both an American accent and a Russian accent within all of them. Like, they keep kind of switching back and forth between it, but it's not like annoying or anything. It's noticeable, but it like flows with the movie. So I really like the way they did the Russian accents in this film. Yeah, I don't know what else to say other than this movie was fantastic. I really liked the music too. The action was fantastic, and something else I really liked is this is interesting. It's Black Widow, right? Black Widow's a spy. I wanted a spy movie, not a superhero movie. But with that said, she is a superhero, right? She's just not super, but she has fantastic skills. So what this movie really is, I would call it a superhero spy movie, because there are some really cool superhero moments for Black Widow in this movie, but still an awesome spy movie. Like, I was expecting and kind of hoping that this would only be a spy movie, but it makes perfect sense that Black Widow, they add the superhero effects to her. And yeah, I really enjoyed the whole story of her kind of, her sister kind of putting right in front of her what she has always done in her past, how much blood she had to spill, and yet everyone still calls her a hero, and she feels kind of bad for that. She's like a hero to little girls, when indeed she probably killed so many of them when she was younger. So that whole thing kind of torments Natasha Romanoff throughout this movie, and I really like how they dealt with it throughout the film. Now, the only thing I will say that I didn't like probably was the villain was so forgettable. He was just an old, creepy, weird guy. Like, no joke, this dude was just a creep. I don't even know why the villain was like that. I didn't like the villain at all, personally. But everything else. And I kind of like the fact that they kind of focused more on Natasha and her family story versus the villain. But I have to admit this. That's why I'm going to give it 9 points and not 10. Because the villain sucked. Both of the villains in this movie, the main villain, the big one that's behind everything, and then the side villain, both of the villains in this movie sucked. And the side villain ended up being the big villain's daughter that Natasha supposedly killed. Turns out she's alive. And yeah, the serum, of course, once it's thrown near them and the gas goes off, it undoes the mind control that the guy has on the girl. So yeah, I mean, it's a great film. It's a great film. I really did enjoy everything about it. The story is fantastic. I could go into more detail. I don't want to, only because I want you guys to go and watch it. Even though, obviously, I spoiled a lot in this video. But there are some stuff in this film that I don't want to spoil, because it's just a fun ride to watch. I really liked everything that this film pretty much did other than the villain. So, with that said, real quick, the end credit scene. The end credit scene, apparently Natasha's sister is going to go after Clark, after Clint, after Hawkeye, in the Hawkeye series. So now we know what the Hawkeye series is going to be about. Will she be the main villain of it? I highly doubt that, but she'll be a villain. So that'll be interesting. Not to mention what happens to the other Black Widows that are around the world, you know? While I wouldn't want to see another movie about it, maybe a show, maybe a Widow show, focusing on her sister would be nice. So maybe that's going to be a part of what Hawkeye is going to deal with. That could be interesting. I would like to see more of Natasha's parents in this as well. In the future, I found those two characters funny. And come to think of it, I would like to see more Natasha Romanoff. I would like to see more Black Widow movies. I would like to see more taking place before Endgame, because I something that I am so relieved that they didn't do with this film is they didn't retcon her death. I don't want them retconning her death. They've already retconned Loki's, and I like the Loki show, but yeah, Natasha, I love her sacrifice. She needs to stay dead, otherwise it undoes the sacrifice. That's my whole thought about it. So I hope they never undo that. Anyway, guys, I've rambled on long enough. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know down in the comments below your thoughts about Black Widow. I'm out for now. Bye.